I think we all have these kind of like low points, or we see them as like rock bottoms, that those rock bottoms can have a trampoline if we see it. You fall down, but that trampoline bounces you back up even higher before. Every time something like that happens, there's a lesson in it. They come and it's like a punch in the stomach. Sometimes how this feels like, situations, right? You can't shake it off after an hour. You cannot shake it off after a day, shake it off after a week or a month. That is God's lesson, the Creator's lesson for you. And those points make you stronger, so stronger.
What if your greatest crisis is actually a trampoline in disguise? My guest on today's show is Sagi Shrieber, returning after our powerful conversation on marketing speak just a couple months ago. Sagi is the founder of Contrast and a serial entrepreneur who's built multiple seven-figure businesses. He's also a former designer at Fiverr and mentor at Google, who's interviewed design leaders from Airbnb, Facebook, and Apple. In our conversation, we explore how hitting rock bottom twice led Sagi to profound spiritual awakenings and business breakthroughs. We discuss the moment he stood crying in his driveway 2 weeks from financial ruin and how hiring a coach with money he didn't have changed everything. Sagi reveals the exact 3-item vision list that manifested within 6 months, including getting booked on podcasts he'd only dreamed about. We unpack the 75 hard challenge and why mental toughness compounds into real confidence. Sagi shares his morning routine philosophy, the power of putting yourself first without guilt, and why entrepreneurship is ultimately a spiritual journey. We also explore quantum physics, manifestation mechanics, and the truth behind every seeming coincidence. This episode will shift how you view obstacles and equip you with a framework for turning crisis into breakthrough momentum. Sagi, it's so great to have you on the show, and to have you on my other show, since we spoke maybe a month or two ago on Marketing Speak.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stephan, for having me. It's great to be here again.
Yeah, so we had such a powerful conversation, and we covered so many angles relating to personal development and growth and spirituality and so forth. I really wanted to bring you on this show because you have just so much wisdom and life experience to share, and our listener here will definitely benefit from that. So I'm excited to dig in. So let's first of all, for someone who's not listened to the episode on Marketing Speak, let's give them a little bit of a backgrounder on you, how you kind of built your empire from nothing, and you have all this great experience in the tech industry, and now you're playing around with AI a lot. Like, give us a quick rundown of your hero's journey.
All right. So number one, who doesn't play around with AI a lot nowadays, right? But
you'd be surprised. I mean, certainly, I would imagine that a number of my listeners would be amenable to talking to ChatGPT and so forth. But
yeah.
Around the world, it floors me that, for example, out of the hundreds of millions of ChatGPT users, only 5% pay anything. 95% don't consider ChatGPT useful enough to pay a single penny to OpenAI, which floors me.
Wow. Crazy. Anyways, we can talk a lot about AI and
yes. So, hero's journey. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll try to make it very quickly. I came from the tech industry here in Israel. I was in the design UX, like UI UX field. Was the first designer at Fiverr, the actual company. I worked with the founders. When I left Fiverr, I started a startup with a few friends. We got accepted to Upwest Labs, the Silicon Valley startup accelerator. Flew out to the Silicon Valley, came back. Basically, eventually were acquired by SimilarWeb, which is another company here in Israel. I became the first in-house designer at SimilarWeb, grew the team at SimilarWeb, the design system, like everything SimilarWeb, became design director eventually. And all throughout that, I was running 2 major blogs and podcasts in the design space, one completely in Hebrew called Pixel Perfect, and one international called Hacking UI, where I interviewed like VPs and directors of designs of like Airbnb and Facebook and Google and Apple and all the big companies. And I flew out to California and New York and, sat with them in their offices and learned like everything about design. And then also was a mentor at Google for UI UX, and they flew us out on their own for all kinds of trainings in California. So um, fast forward, the blog and podcast, the international one, grew, and I left my day job or the tech industry to work on a blog and podcast full time. And then that's the first time I became an entrepreneur and understood, the forces of a market. Like I had the startup before, but it's definitely not the same. And in my startup, I was a designer back then. So now all of a sudden, I was the sole provider of my family. I already had 2 children, a mortgage, and I was supposed to provide. And the value that I put out to the world is, what I got back in money, right? And and that's where I fell into a funk. I got into debt. I had a period of 6 months. I didn't pull a salary out of my own company, and I took a loan from the bank. I wasted the entire loan. I was 2 weeks away from like not being able to feed my family. It was a very tough situation, and that's when I, for the first time, hired a coach. I never thought about doing that before, but it came to my mind, like, why not hire a coach? I hired a coach. I flew him over to Israel with money that I didn't have. It's like some guy that I read his book and he inspired me. And I reached out to him like cold on Facebook Messenger. And I'm like, hey, do you coach? And he's like, yeah. Um, Long story short, he helped me build the business. Like with money that I didn't have, I flew him over 2 weeks after I was already making money. And I grew since then, basically into a 6-figure business. And in 2020, I launched my agency called Contrast, a UI UX design agency. I took all my skills, everything that I'm pro at, and methodologies that I gained, and I was already teaching through my blogs and online courses. I took that and made it into a service-based business, and that thing I grew into a 7-figure business. Recently, I'm saying like 2 months ago, I acquired a partnership in another business, like 50% in a business of a very good friend who's like also ex Google. He has an agency that builds personal brands for CEOs and founders, and I acquired 50% of the company. Basically, I bought out his partner, and I became partner. So now I have another business on my hands, which is a very fun business for me because, coming from creating content, personal brand for myself, and being in the circles of like, I was in a mastermind with like Pat Flynn and Geldy and Chris Ducker and like all these big names. And now being able to help other founders and entrepreneurs do that for themselves, it's amazing. It's like I'm bringing all my skills of building a business and of personal brands into one thing and working with my best friend. So really fun. We're having a great time now scaling this business. So that was in a nutshell. I hope it wasn't too long.
And who would have thunk that you would get there from the low point where you were 2 weeks away from completely running out of cash and having used up your bank loan?
Oh yeah, that was definitely. And I think we all have these kind of like low points, or we see them as like rock bottoms. I always described it after what happened, like that those rock bottoms can have a trampoline if we see it, and then you use a trampoline so you fall down, but that trampoline is so good it bounces you back up even higher to where you were before. And I really believe that. I think, nowadays I can connect it to the spiritual practices, which I also learned along the way. And I can say, it's like every time something like that happens, there's a lesson in it. Obviously, since then, like every business owner, I guess you experienced it. Everybody here listening experienced it. Like we experience these challenges in life, and they come and it's like a punch in the stomach. Like um, for me, that's sometimes how this feels like, someone like, uh, so many situations, right? But like a very, every couple of years, there's this like big thing, the big thing that's like, holy shit, like that's a big punch in the stomach. You can't shake it off after an hour. You cannot shake it off after a day. And sometimes you can't shake it off after a week or a month. And that is God's lesson, like the creator's lesson for you. And I think that's, you know, those points make you stronger, so stronger.
Yeah, so it reminds me of a quote from Joseph Campbell. The cave you fear to enter has the treasure that you seek. And um, just to give you a little bit more context around it, I learned about this quote. I knew about Joseph Campbell and his work on myth and so forth from previous reading, but it was specifically it was Jonathan Fields, and he gave a talk, and it was about his hitting a low point with regards to tinnitus. So he had ringing in the ear that wouldn't go away, and it drove him crazy, and he couldn't solve it. So he got to the point where he was even thinking about ending his life. This quote really helped save him because it was a turning point in his understanding that this is actually the thing that helps him to get to the next level. Even though it was horrible for him, it was the cave that he feared to enter. And I love this part of the quote. It is by going down into the abyss that we recover the treasures of life. Where you stumble, there lies your treasure. The very cave you are afraid to enter turns out to be the source of what you are looking for. The damned thing in the cave that was so dreaded has become the center. You find the jewel and it draws you off. And so this, for him, led him to a whole awakening and exploration into mindfulness. And now he's an expert in mindfulness. He has a very popular podcast, and he has a book on this topic. His Good Life Project is known around the world. And it wouldn't have happened if he hadn't had this situation with tinnitus. And it hasn't gone away. He's just learned to live with it and to be actually grateful for it, which is really amazing.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of the times we don't see the lesson while we're in it, but just knowing that every one of these instances is kind of like God stepping us up to the next level of ourselves. And there's no kind of better way of, of getting to where you want to get, like that's the only way, basically. Um, and, and yeah, so anyways, I love that. Nice quote.
Now, it occurs to me that life is kind of like fractal in nature, that you have an event or some sort of experience or challenge that if you don't learn the lesson, it repeats itself in a different way, and it just keeps like replicating in various forms. And I love this quote. It's history doesn't repeat itself, but sometimes it rhymes.
But sometimes it rhymes.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's
Yeah.
oh gosh, who wrote that? Mark Twain. Yeah, so Mark
Yeah.
Twain came up with that brilliant quote. And if you think about
Yeah.
the past challenges that were kind of similar to that experience, that hitting that low point where you ran out of cash almost, almost couldn't provide for your family anymore. What were some other similar kind of rhyming experiences from your past that maybe mirror what you went through there?
Um, I mean, I think it's interesting. Um, in 2019, I lost everything again. Now, it's not that I don't know if it's the same lesson. I'm trying to think like also, yeah, I mean, like everything teaches you about business, and I'm a late bloomer in learning. Like I learn everything the hard way sometimes, which I don't believe I have to do. That's why I read books and listen to podcasts and take on mentoring and coaching. It's not a limiting belief of mine, but throughout my experiences, um, I don't know, like if there's, and that's the thing. I'm trying to. 2019, I tried to launch something new, and I invested everything I had in that thing, and I lost all my design clients. I lost everything, like intentionally. And by the way, it was like written down on a piece of paper. By the end of 2018, I'm going to lose all my design clients, and have zero design clients, and have and start working on the launch of my new program. And it happened. I mean, that was 6 months before the end of 2018 when I wrote it down. By the end of 2019, I did have zero design clients, and for various reasons. One startup like got uh, the investors pulled the funds, and no more, so all kinds of reasons. But it doesn't matter. Like, I manifested it, no more clients. And then I find myself like in January, and I launched this program, and I prepared, and I built a webinar, and I followed all the best practices of selling a webinar, like Russell Brunson, Amy Porterfield, and all these people. I studied them, and I built an amazing webinar. 100% better designed than any webinar I've ever seen, because I'm a designer. So it was amazingly designed webinar. Storytelling was off the hook. Studied storytelling. It was for me, it was something I really wanted to be great at, excel at. And then crickets. Nobody bought. And a week later, I launched that webinar again. I changed the offer just a bit to make it more compelling, more irresistible. But still, like, and people showed up, just, nobody bought. And well, one person bought it. One person, but I had to return their money. So, um, anyways, yeah, I remember, and I pulled my camera. At this stage, I already was fascinated with documenting the journey, the highs and the lows. I pulled out my camera, and I said, if I ever get out of this situation that I just put myself in, just so I know to document that this, and I documented how I feel, and what's going on. And I still have this video till this day. Um, and, I'm thinking, like, what was the reason that made me fail? Like, was it me that manifested this? Was it me that, like, with limiting belief, with blockages? I currently don't know. I know I learned to really be, after this situation, I learned how to, like, um, take care of my business and the profitability, and not to lose clients, and to, manage retention of clients, and, all that stuff. Like, I learned a lot from just that incident. Um, and it gave me a tool that, I think, the responsibility over finances in a business that I probably needed that tool, because although I grew out of my 2017 crisis and built a business, now I needed to know how to maintain a business, and I didn't yet. It's kind of like, so anyways, it might be as an instance where it rhymes, because life was like, Sagi, you're in, first time around when I lost everything, it's like, Sagi, you're a business owner, get a grip of yourself, like, run the finances, um, and manage the business properly. Like, cash flow is a thing. And then 2019, another, slap, like, so kind of like God saying, Sagi, cash flow is a thing. Now get up and learn it. And I think I learned it since then. But again, I don't know the exact lesson there, like, spiritually, but I know that as an entrepreneur, like, and I think we discussed in the previous, like, in the other podcasts, like, entrepreneurship, I see it as a spiritual journey. So I really try to grow out of each and every opportunity. And I can give you an example of actually where I really learned the lesson, and it changed my complete, but like, I think it really changed the life and business, like, in terms of, like, um since then. Do you want to go
Yeah, let's
first?
hear it. Let's hear it.
All right. So, I mean, it was 2020. All right. It was the end of 2020, and I had my third child born. It was COVID. And she was just like very, um, a baby, and I was not sleeping at all. And though, um, I had the business though, right? So I still had the business. I was not sleeping. It's COVID, like lockdowns every, Wednesday, and the kids were, all the challenges of COVID with small children. Kids were in schools with masks, and, like, these kind of Zoom lessons, and the business was just at the beginning. It was just starting to grow, and then I got sued by a troll. And then the troll that sued my business, they sued me on spam in my newsletter, where I never spam, and actually everybody has like double opt-in and all of that stuff. And but you can break any law, you can find cracks in any law and just sue anybody on anything. And I found out he has like 7 other lawsuits open on different businesses. So so I I had to, first time in my life, just write a defense letter and stuff like that, lawyer up. Like, I've never, been even to court or ever talked to you lawyers before that. Um, and at the same time, I had a project with a client that went bad. And the project went really bad. I mean, I brought on an external developer. We usually don't work with developers, but I had to bring in a developer, and the developer erased my client's website from production, the
Oh,
entire web.
wow.
And then apparently he was a lawyer, so he threatened to sue me.
Your
And
client
yeah,
was a lawyer?
yeah.
Oh, no.
And I was getting like angry phone calls every day at like 10 p.m. Like, how, like, I can't believe I wasted my time with you. Why did I hire you? Like, you erased my website. Like, this is a mess. Like, and I took full responsibility. Like, this is my responsibility. I didn't take off a centimeter of the responsibility from me. And so um, it was a very tough time, very stressful, handling this guy in court, and talking to another client lawyer who's like threatening to sue you and trying to fix this whatever mess you've done, not sleeping at night, and all the other tons of pressure from the business that is just starting, employees, clients, like regular stuff. And the also, another thing back then was like, I wasn't even like, I was profitable but not cash flowing properly, because I was paying my designers every month, but the clients sometimes paid late. So I was like handling cash flow like very extremely, in terms of like, it was on the verge every time of like going into the red. Again, stressful life, right? And then and I'm still a sole provider for my household. Now, that period was shit. I would not, I don't, it was really shitty. Like, it's a period where I really was afraid to get sick. I know people get sick from being like, stressed so long. And so I doubled down on what I know, workouts and meditations. And it really, really helped me. At the end of the day, I got this guy, defended myself in court, always good on that front, and then got him off my back. And in terms of the client, took full responsibility, fixed everything for him, obviously, and he then later even thanked me, or invited me for lunch and stuff, and so we closed it very nicely. Now, when I sat down after this period, was um, it was kind of a crazy, like, reflection back on this, on this period, because it's like, what happened? And I'm looking at my values, and I always like to say your calendar is a reflection of your values. So I looked back at my values, and I'm like, what do I value? And I say I'm a family first entrepreneur. I always said that. So like, family first, and then after family comes business. And if anything happens to the business, that's okay. So I look back and say, this thing can happen again. I'm a business owner. Like, these kind of periods can happen. How do I make sure that I take care of my health 100%? Now, I know I'm not sleeping. What's important? Sleep. So, and I also, like, I was like, I need a morning routine, but I don't like, I need to set myself up for the day properly, be in good energy. The energy you put out, the energy you get back. How do I do it? And I'm like, okay, I'll see my calendar for a second. What's missing? And I always like to think of my calendar as a reflection of my values, right? And so I check my calendar, and I'm like, what do I call myself? Family first entrepreneur. Okay. What do I have in my calendar? I have times with my kids, like one-on-one time. I call it daddy practice. I have this kind of like everything for the business. I have time with my wife, like date nights and stuff. And I'm good on those fronts. What's missing? And I'm like, holy shit. What carried me through this period was meditations and exercise, taking care of me. Where is that, my physical and mental health, or call it mental fitness, in my calendar? Where is it? And it wasn't there. I only did it when I had time. And that's when things changed for me. And I said, I got to reprioritize my values in life. And then it just so happened that I heard a podcast from Hal Elrod. Do you know Hal Elrod?
Yes, I had him on the show. Yeah.
Oh, amazing, amazing. So he's amazing, amazing guy. And like, and in his
Yeah,
podcast,
talk about hitting a low point. You know his story about the cancer
yeah,
and everything.
yeah, right. I mean,
Yeah,
twice, right? Like,
he was almost out.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's a podcast he recorded after he recovered from
No,
cancer.
no, this was actually before he had his health crisis. Yeah, I
No,
have
no,
to. That's a good point. I have to have him back to talk about what happened
yeah.
after that.
So basically, he had cancer once in 2017, 18, or something like that, and he recovered from cancer, right? And so when he recovered, he recorded a podcast. I think it was again at the end of 2020, when I heard it towards the new year, when he said, he declared, I'm shifting my priorities. So my priorities now is me first, family later. And it's unpopular, right? Because you want to say, oh, I'm a family man. And a lot of parents sacrifice everything for their kids and wife. And like, I mean, you'd take a bullet for your wife and kids probably, but what about you? And we don't tend to take care of ourselves. We sacrifice too much. And if we then sacrifice ourselves, our health, our mental health, right? There was an entrepreneur here that just committed suicide. Everybody knows him here in Israel. It was a couple of days ago. Um, Everybody knows him. Everybody. My whole Facebook was like everybody writing like about it. How they like are in shock and grieving, and it's like this guy was a successful, very successful person. But what happens when mental health becomes messed up? Things happen in life, and so basically, I said I'm putting me first, because if I don't have me, my family won't have me, and my business won't have me. That's why
Right. Yeah, it's the concept of putting your own oxygen mask on first.
Exactly, 100%. And once I did that, I put time in my calendar. I said, when am I going to take care of me? And my immediate answer was, I need it in the morning. Because in the morning, if you set yourself up in the morning for success, your whole day will be good. If your whole day will be good, you have great days ahead. You'll have great weeks and great months and great years. So I put in my calendar from 9 to 12 just to block a repeating, calendar invite. No meetings, sagis on meditations and workouts. And that's it. Ever since I called it my 9 to 12 club, I followed that religiously. Some days it worked, some days it didn't, until I stabilized everything, communicated to my team, to my clients, everybody I know. Guys, from 9 to 12, Sagi's not in the building. Like, I can't have meetings. Don't call me. Don't message me. Like, obviously, everybody messages me and calls me all the time, but I still keep it until this day. And nowadays, it's kind of like more like 8:30 to 11-ish, but it doesn't matter. It's still me in the morning, and I don't have meetings. Mostly before 12, sometimes, at 11, but that's it. And when I keep this promise to myself, and I kept this, and I'm talking about, it was the next year that I reached my first 7 figures. And since then, I've been growing my company like every year over year. And now it's like, again, this is almost 2026. So we're talking like beginning of 2021, ever since. And that's it. Like, that's my morning routine. And why is it, by the way, 9 to 12 and opting out of like the regular life of everybody else? It's because I had small children, and, and I wake up early anyhow, but it's for the children. It's not for me. And so back then it was like, not sleeping at night because of small children. Now the small one is 5. So, they're bigger and they sleep all night way better, but it's still kind of like I go to sleep pretty much later, and then I wake up earlier to get them ready and the whole house ready for the day. So yeah, when I return from pickups, it's time for workouts, time to spend time with my wife or sometimes friends that I haven't seen in a while. And these are kind of like the times where take care of me and build relationships. And yeah, it's working well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing with such vulnerability and candor. It's refreshing and important. I mean, you're revealing light in the world, and you're helping people to relate and build their own tools through your experience. Yeah, like you learn from
Yeah.
reading books and from watching videos and so forth. Well, other people are now doing the same with you,
It's amazing.
learning
Yeah, if
from you and
I
your
could give it
experiences.
back, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Let's go back to this experience that happened for you where you were reading a book and then you, out of the blue, contacted the author to get him to coach you. How did you find the book and how did you come to the realization that you needed him to be your coach?
Interesting. Um, okay, so it's not such a big story. I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, I'm listening to podcasts all the time, right? And I listen to this podcast on JLD, Johnny Dumas's EO Fire, Entrepreneurs on Fire. So there's this guy, Johnny Dumas, JLD, and has a podcast EO Fire.
Yeah, he was a guest on the show.
Okay, amazing, awesome. Um, and um, and then so JLD recorded this like back then I didn't know him personally. I was just listening to the show, and I listened to this guy on his show one time who was an amazing storyteller and young entrepreneur that just built his business from scratch but didn't succeed and went into debt, and then he hired a coach and kind of like, wow, what an amazing storyteller, what an amazing story. And I remember I stopped in the middle, like I was driving my back then scooter to work, to my office, and then I stopped in the middle of my way to work, and I kind of pulled over for a second, and I just bought the book on Audible and started listening to the book. And this guy's name was Calvin Wayman, and so I listened to the book. The book is called Fish Out of Water, and the book was amazingly well put. Like in considering like other personal development books, this one had something special. Maybe it's because of his story, just a regular guy, and he keeps saying that I'm just a regular dude. And maybe because of the thing of like I never hired a coach, I never even thought about it. But when he tells about his story, like of course it makes sense. So when I finished the book, I was like, I gotta meet this guy. And I already had a podcast. I'm used to reaching out to like people who seem totally unapproachable and reaching out cold and just like, hey, what do you get on my podcast? And they're like, of course, people are way more approachable than we think, right? So just, I friended him on Facebook, and then he accepted my friend request. So I sent him a message in Messenger, and he just answered me. He's like, cool, man. Like let's book a Zoom call. And that's how we got together. I mean, it's pretty simple. And the funny part about it is like it was just at the beginning where we were not profitable in my blog and podcast. I had a partner back then, and we were not profitable, and like we started understanding we don't have money to pull salaries, and it was a perfect time to hire him as a coach. So I went on Zoom with him back then, and he said, "Yeah, I can coach you. It costs like this and that." It was like a couple of $1,000s, Zoom calls and everything. And it seemed kind of like once a week, half an hour, couple $1,000s. And I went over to my partner and to my dad, and I asked them, "What do you think?" And they're used to like business coaches here in Israel, like local coaches, and they're like, "Wait a second, are you saying like he charges like double what a business coach here in Israel would charge, basically? And what a business coach here would sit with you at a coffee shop for like an hour every week, and he just Zoom call for like 30 minutes." Like what's going on? And by the way, was he ever a business coach? Like, have he ever coached before? And the answer was no, because this guy was just
That's
brand
so
new at
funny.
this. Um,
Yeah.
so
You know,
so
the funny thing is that while you're talking about this, I'm imagining people doing the same conversation with their trusted advisors, friends, and family about hiring me for coaching, and my prices are sky high, like insanity, like $5,000 a month for 1 hour a week. And I actually haven't raised my prices in over a decade, but it's when you do the math and figure what's the hourly rate for that, people are like, "What are you doing, Stephan?" But people hire me.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, right? It happens. Um, and and look, I mean, it's not that I actually believe it was a good idea. Intuitively, right? I was like in my gut feeling, it felt right. My gut was telling me, hire him now. You need it. His story makes sense. You just ran out of cash in your business. You have nothing. Like you need him. My logic mind and all the people around me were like, are you freaking crazy? No. And I came back to him and I said no. And I remember that call because I remember how I felt on that call. I just felt wrong. It felt wrong. And I said no. And in my mind, it's my logical mind and everybody around me that are saying no. And I'm just kind of like speaking on their behalf. I'm not speaking Sagi, I'm speaking everybody around me. Um, and again, it's not even that it's not their fault. Like it's just me. I said no. And so, but I let them like get into my mind. And they, by the way, if probably someone would have asked me, I might have asked the same questions back, right? Like, was he ever a coach? Was like, I probably, it makes sense to ask logical questions for this kind of thing. And so anyways, I said no. 6 months later, and one thing he said to me when I said no, he said, "Look, next time you talk to me, right? The book is starting to catch, like fire, and a lot of people are now asking about coaching. I might next time you come, if you want coaching, I might be double the prices. Like I'm just saying, so you can lock this price now, but I'm saying like in 6 months, like I might be either too busy or just double the price." Like I said, like in whatever months. So anyways, 6 months later, lo and behold, I come back with the tail between my legs and I say, uh, look, man, like, and by the way, I was such in a bad spot. I remember like it was one night and I was walking my dog, and I tell the story on some podcast. So sorry if you heard it before, but it's like, that's the true story. Like that's when I had the realization. 6 months after I wasted an entire loan, red in the bank by like a ton. I owe a lot of money to the bank already, and I really don't know where I'm going to monetize from. I have no idea. It's after months that I worked my ass off until like midnight every day. Haven't seen my wife or my kids. Like I was working late nights because I was trying to monetize, and that was my responsibility, right, as a father, as a husband, like to provide. Back then, right? My wife wasn't working. I was, and so I was trying to do what I need to do, and I failed, and I felt like an embarrassment. I felt like a failure to my wife, to my children, to my partner back then, to my like business partner, to my community, everybody around me. I felt like a failure, and I walked my dog one night, and I was walking the dog, and I was just like, the sky was so beautiful, and I was like, how's the sky so beautiful? How, like how is, and it was like just after sunset, and I'm walking, and I'm like starting to see the stars and the beautiful sky, um, and then I started crying, and then like for the first time, like as an adult, I really started crying because I really didn't know what to do. I was very frustrated. I was so frustrated. I had no way out, like no equation, like my, equations running around my head, and numbers and trying to make things work. Like, where am I going to get money? But I have no idea. I tried for like 6 months, nothing worked. And then like after crying for a couple minutes, I was just like, a voice in my head said, Sagi, what the fuck you gonna do about it? Sorry for the language, but that's what the voice said in English. It just said, Sagi, what the fuck are you gonna do about it? And so I said, well, I can do what I know what to do. I mean, I can reach out to people that have been in a similar situation, and I could get them on an hour free call with me, they will understand my situation, and with enough empathy, they would agree not to take any money and just help me get out the situation. So I went and approached a few people. I will never forget it because two of them actually answered. One is like Jason Zook, an amazing entrepreneur. I back then I interviewed him for my podcast, and we went back and forth a bit, like on email. And he was a great guy, and he answered and said, "Sure, man, let's get on a call." And he got on a call with me, and it really, really helped me. One of the major things that I came out of that call was like, I need to separate from my partner. I need to, we each pulled in different directions. We need to, I need a reset, like number one. And Calvin was the second person, but when he got on a call with me, he's like, "Look, man, I can give you like a free consultation, whatever you want, but I can also just coach you." And when he said that, I'm like, "Well, okay, so maybe like, remind me of the pricing." And he said, "Look, man, it's double what it was. And you also have to fly me out to Israel, because I want to sit with you in a room, and we need to do a VIP day here. Like it's not going to work any other way." So I flew him over to Israel from the US with money I didn't have. So back then, the decision-making process was just different. I listened ruthlessly to my gut feeling and was very mindful of the consequences, of my actions, but I was ruthlessly listening to my intuition, my gut feeling. Um, I flew him over with money I didn't have, and thousands of dollars, and just ahead of, even before understanding what this it's even going to do. And then, so Kelvin comes to Israel. We sit down in a room in Tel Aviv, like in some office space, and the room, I remember, like the lights were, it was like light outside. It came through the window, but there was no light. We didn't turn on the lights in the room, so it was kind of like dark, but like light coming through the windows. And I'm sitting on this like huge on a chair in this huge table in this meeting room, and Calvin's just walking around the meeting room. And like, "Okay, Sagi, what's your vision?" And I'm like, I don't, have a vision. What's a vision? And it's like, "Well, you need a vision." Like, "Okay, so you don't have a vision." I'm like, "I don't even know what that is." Um, so he said, he says, "Okay." So he guided me through a meditation of like me in 10 years. First time I ever imagined like myself like in 10 years. Like I think most of us don't do it. Most of us don't even take the time to close our eyes and imagine ourselves, how we look like, how we feel in 10 years from now, because we're so far from it. But it was weird looking and imagining this. It was so weird. Um, so basically, like I closed my eyes and imagined, and then he said, "Okay, where do you need to be in 2 years in order to get closer to that 10-year vision?" I'm like, aha, now that starts to make sense. So I wrote down some things, and he's like, "Great. Now let's make it closer. Where do you have to be in 6 months?" List down everything, he said, everything, and write it in detail as if it already happened. And I remember I was in a flow, in a state of flow. I just started writing down things. And one of the things was, number one, I need to make like 14K USDs. Like, I wrote down 50,000 shekels, 50,000 shekels a month. Like, if I make that in a month, I'm good. I'm gold. Like, I'm good enough. Like, even with taxes and everything like that, I'm good. I can pay my bills and the loan. And then after that, I said, okay, number two, I'm going to start a new community. Like that's what because I lost my part, like I stopped doing the design stuff, but now I want to teach like others how to go through the challenges that I went through, build a vision and create a successful business. So I'm going to teach others how to have a vision, a new community. And that new community is going to be called Mindful and Ruthless, because exactly like the decision-making process that took me there. So, and that was the second item. The third item was, I'm going to be booked to be interviewed on a podcast by either JLD or Pat Flynn. Two names, just wrote it down. I didn't know those guys. I was just like an anonymous broke entrepreneur from Israel, and they were like super celebs from like the US. Fast forward a month later, I earned that 50K. So I wrote myself a check for the following 6 months of 100K Israeli shekels, which is about the equivalent back now, like 28K USDs. But I wrote myself a check like Jim Carrey, right? The story of Jim Carrey. If you don't know
Yeah,
the story,
love that story.
anybody, yeah, go watch
We'll
it.
have to include in the show notes
Yeah,
the video of him telling that story.
yeah, it's such a good story. So I was inspired by that story again. Put a check on my fridge, let it sit there. It started filling up with magnets. In the meantime, grinded, built everything I could. Like it didn't come easy, but I made time for my wife, time for my family, like my kids, my wife, and everything. Meditated, went back to meditating after years I haven't meditated, and worked up. Then 6 months later, something happened. It was the beginning of 2018, and like the 2nd of January 2018, and my wife's going over the accounting software, and she's like, Sagi, I think we have a bug here. Now she was in the living room, I was in the kitchen fixing myself something to eat, and when she says like, Sagi, I think there's a bug here, I'm like, what's going on? So she says it looks like you made over 100K in Israeli shekels in December. And I'm like, what? It can't be. And all of a sudden, I remembered that check that I wrote to myself because I forgot about it. It was like on the fridge for months. And it was covered by like, bills and magnets and stuff. Like I had to pull it out. I found it. I pulled it out and I ran to the living room and put the check in front of the computer screen. And I looked at the check. It says 100K. I looked at the screen. It says 100K. And I took a picture with my phone. I have that picture till this day. And, it just manifested the same week. I opened the community. That was the first, like, I said, this one, boom, community. Opened my community, Mindful and Ruthless. Now it's called Commit First. It went through a few cycles, but it's a podcast and community called Commit First. And then I bought myself a ticket to 10X by Grant Cardone in Las Vegas, where I met Kelvin again, and he said, you should come with me. There's like social media marketing world in San Diego. Let's go there after 10X. And I said, yeah, why not? And we volunteered there to get like cheap tickets, like free tickets. So we volunteered at the conference. Anyways, and I knew Pat Flynn was speaking. He was a keynote speaker. So I said, okay, I'm going to I'm going to meet Pat Flynn anyway in the hallway on his way to his talk. Just enough shaking his hand will bring me closer to my vision. I mean, I don't care. Jelly was not supposed to be there, so I didn't even expect to see him or anything. But I said enough for me to put my face in front of Pat Flynn's face. That would be just bring it just a bit closer to my vision. I don't care that it's after 6 months. I'm good. So that day before the conference, Pat Flynn has a meetup. And I'm like, okay, I got to be there. So we went to that meetup. I'm making a long story short because there was a crazy situation, like with no tickets to the meetup and how I got my ticket there. But anyways, I get to the space. It's on WeWork, San Diego, downtown San Diego, at WeWork, 3rd floor. And we go up the elevator, Calvin and I, and 3rd floor. Now we wait in 15-minute line just to get our name tags. Like the place is packed. We go inside. The whole floor is divided into 2 sections. One is a packed networking area. Everybody's talking networking. The other section is 2 queue. It's a queue. It's long lines. And you see the line that going like a snake. And you're like, where's this line leading to? So I'm like, okay. I go and I check my like where the line leads to. And with my finger, I'm kind of like following the line. Oh, at the end of the line is Pat Flynn, signing autographs and shaking people's hands and taking selfies. I'm like, Pat Flynn. I'm like fanboying there, standing in line. And I'm saying, okay, now I'm in line to meet Pat Flynn face to face. That's way better than shaking his hand on the way for his keynote, talk. Like that, I get one-on-one time with Pat. What am I going to say? So I made this kind of like thing where I said, okay, I'm going to offer him free designs. I mean, that's what I'm really good at. I just offer him like some free design, something that I'm going to give instead of asking. And then while I'm waiting in line, I see another, like this very long line has another line next to it. Like it looks connected, but it's not. So I'm like, where does this other very long line lead to? So I started following with my finger. I'm like, where does this line lead to? And then I get to the end of that line and I'm like, huh, that's JLD.
That's
JLD.
awesome.
The two people that were on a piece of paper about 7 months ago are now standing in front of my eyes in the same freaking space. You know, what are the odds? JLD was not even supposed to be there. It was not on a speaking list. So I'm like, okay, crazy. So long story short, I did offer the free design thing. The dots connected. And also I did it with JLD. I ended up having Pat remember who I was, and also JLD. And I started working with JLD. I redesigned his homepage back then, the top part of the homepage. And then after that, Pat Flynn opened a mastermind, and I applied along with other couple hundred thousands, but I got accepted. And we were 12 entrepreneurs. I was the only one outside the States. And I ended up spending the year getting mentored by Pat, and spending time with him in a villa in San Diego, masterminding, and like amazing experiences. And the crazy first thing that he said though on the onboarding call was the one that blew my mind, and it was something I totally didn't expect. So we got an onboarding call when I joined the mastermind, and he says, "Sagi, you got a hell of a story. Let's get you on the podcast." And there I was, 3 items that were on my list, completely crossed out. I was booked to be on Pat Flynn's show, and that show became super viral, that specific episode in 2018. I became one of the top 3, according to statistics that I saw back then, of like Pat Flynn's show in that year, and of Smart Passive Income. And later I also was on JLD's show as well, and he was on mine, and Pat was on mine, and a couple times even, and yeah, so and I was another time in SBI again, and so that's kind of like how everything evolved. But I'm saying, like, you never know those rock bottoms where they lead and what they have for you. But the universe and creator, they work in mysterious ways, and they lead you into different opportunities. So it's always amazing to see what can happen, right? When you just
Amazing. And you said earlier in this story that what are the odds? Thing that I think is so important for our listener and for everyone to understand is there are no odds.
Yep.
It's a rigged game.
Yeah, 100%. That's how quantums work. It's a story of the matrix, of anything quantum, quantum physics. It's like you think about a friend overseas and they call you. It's how the world like, does these they call it, how do they call it, wormholes, right?
Yeah, wormholes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so it's like the wormhole theory, where like
quantum entanglement. We're all connected.
Yeah,
and there is no speed limit. I mean, in Einsteinian physics, sure, there's a speed limit, the speed of light. But when we're all quantumly entangled with each other, that's all outside of time and space.
Yeah. Look, man, I mean, 100%. I really agree. And back then, I didn't really know anything about quantum physics or anything like that. It's just a journey of entrepreneurship. And this kind of like started it for me back then. Like now it opened my belief, like opened my faith in like these kind of situations. Since then I had multiple of these, but yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how the universe works like that, creator, whatever you want to call it. And I really believe it's kind of like, well, it's scientifically proven now. Like you know that, right? We know that. So we know it's scientifically proven that we are beings made out of cells. The cells are made out of atoms. We all know that. So we're all made out of atoms, and atoms are 99% energy and 1% matter. So we're 99% energy. We just don't know how to tap into all of our potential. We don't know, like, and the tools of meditation and all that stuff, they let us do that.
Yeah. Well, we're all energy slowed down to matter, right? That's what matter is, or energy, mostly, as you say. But what is matter? It's just energy slowed down. E equals mc squared. And if you look at how quantum physics works and the observer effect, that light gets turned into a particle when you observe it, and it is also a wave when you're not observing it. So it's a wave of potentiality. That's how the universe is. So it collapses down based on your expectation, and you're observing it, and becomes the reality that you experience. But it's infinite potential until you observe it. And so if you go into a stadium and there's 50,000 people in the room, that they're real people. I mean, some would say that backdrop people or backfill people. I had a really fascinating conversation with a guy on this podcast talking about that concept. He kind of pioneered that concept of backfill people. And first I heard about it from Dolores Cannon from a video. Amazing author, Dolores Cannon. But anyways, this idea that when you leave the stadium, do those 50,000 people still exist in that stadium? And my understanding is no. That it goes back to the potentiality, to the wave. Sure, you go back in the stadium, maybe you left something in your car and you go get it and bring it back into the stadium. Now the 50,000 people are back. But did they exist while you were out to your car? My understanding is no. That it's inefficient to render those 50,000 people and everything in that stadium and the stadium itself when the observer is not there.
Yeah, definitely. We're the observers, so 100% makes.
Yeah, and if you wonder, well, what about the other people who are also observers?
Yeah, they observe their
That's
own.
not relevant because they're not piloting your universe. You are.
Yeah.
You're the pilot of your universe, and they have their own, maybe similar, maybe quite dissimilar universe that you're not aware of, but it's in the multiverse.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So I love that. And Buddhism talks about it as well. But yeah, it's like all religions at the end of the day are kind of like the same. It's just quantum physics.
Yeah, right. So the different ways of naming or describing this simulation, this illusion of reality that we're experiencing, this hyper-realistic illusion. Some religions call it Maya or samsara or just an illusion. It's, in Kabbalah, all time, space, and motion is illusion. And yeah. So what is outside of time and space? That's where real reality is. Fun times. Okay. So I want to share an idea with you. I know we're going to have to wrap up pretty soon, but there's a scene in the Matrix 2 movie, which is not nearly as good as the first Matrix, but there is a very inspired scene that I love, and it popped to mind when you were sharing your story, and that is when Neo is talking to the Oracle. The Oracle is sitting on a park bench, and she offers him a candy, and he says no, but then he says okay, and then while he's eating the candy, he says, well, why'd you offer me the candy? You knew I was going to take it. You could just given it to me. And right, and you, because you knew that I was going to take it, right? And she's like, I wouldn't be a very good oracle if I didn't know that. It's like, well, essentially it's saying, well, where's my free will? I don't, why am I even here? Why did I make that choice to take the candy? She's like, you didn't make the choice. You're not here to make that choice. You had already made it. You're here to understand why you made that choice. Right? So you made the decision and came up with the vision to hire that coach, to get on the podcasts of John Lee Dumas and Pat Flynn. And it feels like, that just came out of the ether. But you were predestined to do that. It was already in your movie script. And now, through the experience of having that, you have new insights about yourself. But the fact that you had those amazing, miraculous events unfold, that was already written.
Life is mysterious in that way, 100%. I'm thinking about it now when, launching our new business with the, personal brands for entrepreneurs. It's like, it's a lot of things are coming together, from all my experience in the past decade. I don't know what's to come. I have no idea, but I'm curious and, coming to it with like a lot of faith. And yeah, it's definitely, I love it. I love I need to go watch that movie again.
It's it's just really insightful, and it's like a documentary, especially the first Matrix movie. And I don't know if you know the story about how the movie script was written, but
No.
it was probably stolen, and the actual author of it was this lady named Sophia, who sent in the script as part of a science fiction writing contest almost a decade earlier and never heard back from it. But
Oh, no
then
way.
she goes to the movie theater and
No
that's her
way.
script. She's realizing as she's watching the Matrix movie.
Wow.
And she filed lawsuits and all this sort of stuff. It didn't really, she didn't have enough evidence to
base it. Yeah.
to really get what she deserved out of it. But, everything happens with divine orchestration. So it was meant to be the way it happened.
Yeah.
But I do believe that she wrote the first one, and the second and third one were not nearly as good, and for a good reason, because it wasn't the same author.
Right. It's 100%. That's so true. Yeah.
All right. So lightning round. What do you do to keep things fresh and I don't know, variable and surprising for your wife with your date nights?
So right now we don't have date nights. For a long time we haven't had one. We have something else. We have date mornings. And so we both work out together at the gym. And we have actually we just because I have that morning space now, so we get to decide every day if we want to work out together or not, or like, so it's very, sometimes it's spontaneous. It's like, I'm going on a walk, you want to join? Yeah, sure. So we go out and walk in nature, or we say let's work out, so we go to the gym together, or we have an outdoor gym that I built. Now we have outdoor gym, so we do it in the in our home, under the in the sun, and it's really fun as well. And then we have like quality time. So I think um, a relationship is a whole other, like, we can do a full podcast on relationships, and I'm no guru. I can only say you are, and it's also in business, you are the energy that you put out. So I really try to keep my energy positive, and even if it was a bad day, it's not that I don't share it, but I don't come with a bad energy to the home. And I try to be very mindful of my energy around my wife and kids.
Yeah, that's good. What are your best sleep hacks that make the most difference to the quality of your sleep and being able to sleep through the night and get restful sleep, deep sleep, and all that?
All right. So I got a funny story about that. So recently I got into longevity, like, and I'm using like AI, and I run this like DNA test and blood work and like a lot of stuff recently. And I put into an AI model, and like I asked it questions and what kind of, supplements to take. Right. And one of the things I asked is like what supplements to take before bed. And it helped me like to find the perfect supplements for me. And then one night, I had a call with a client from the US. It's nighttime here, so I find myself at like 11:30 at night, kind of like walking the dog out, and then I'm like chatting with my AI model about this kind of, okay, so it's late, and and I want to sleep soon, and I just wonder, like, what supplement should I take out of the list of supplements, that wouldn't be too hard on my stomach, but then also give me the best deep sleep and, REM sleep. And I'm like geeking out on the message, and the AI replies back to me. That was the funniest thing. It was like, you can take this and that supplement, blah, 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 the rest, the regular AI stuff, right? And then it ends with something I didn't expect. It ends with, real talk though. That's how it works. Real talk though. Just go to sleep as early as you can. Just get the sleep in, because all your supplements and stuff is like 10%, maybe will help you in 10%, but actually getting even half an hour more sleep instead of chatting to me about this would actually really be more beneficial for you. So it was very honest. Like, yeah, that makes sense. So the tip for me is a tip that I try to give to myself: go to sleep. Go to sleep. And like sometimes I want to watch Netflix, or I watch a show on Netflix, and you want to switch, binge, and you're like, that's my only time to unplug and clear my mind and watch something senseless on Netflix. And I'm like, no, I will unplug by going to sleep, because if I now spend another half an hour on this freaking Netflix shit, my sleep will be hurt. That will affect the entire trajectory of my week.
And it'll also affect what happens during your sleep in terms of, like, spiritually speaking. You'll be occupied with, lower worlds and lower vibration activities in the astral plane, because that crap that you watched on Netflix is infiltrating your consciousness while you are, in the other realms, let's say.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I'm not a guru on sleep at all. I just try to hack it myself by just getting more sleep. I do measure my sleep, Aura Ring. It helps me. And a couple of days ago, I didn't feel well. I just started feeling kind of really tired, but not regular tired, just really like fatigued before sleep. I went to sleep, I had a terrible night of sleep, and I woke up, and Aura, the app, is like, are you sick? It has that like major signs, like with a huge message. And I'm looking at the major signs. I'm like, holy shit, elevated body temperature, higher heart rate that didn't go down, and very low HRV, like super lower than usual. I'm like, holy shit. And I really felt bad, but it's one of those days where I didn't have any symptoms or anything. I could go to work, and I actually had to go to the gym with my wife, with our personal trainer. And I tell her, look, I'm not sure I'm feeling well. I mean, I'm just like, the signs in my aura are really bad. And I'm like, I slept terrible. I feel kind of really tired, but it's just morning. Maybe I didn't wake up yet. You could pull through. But basically, so she says, I'm not feeling too good either. So I said, okay, let's cancel the personal trainer. We canceled the personal trainer. We drove the kids to school and all, but we came back. We went into bed for like 3 hours. We just sat like zombies in bed. I fell asleep for a while. She read something, and then we woke up. Like, I woke up. She didn't sleep, but we got out of bed after that, and we felt so much better. We went upstairs to the gym. We had a good workout. Then we started the day, and the day went completely fine. So it was like, I feel that if I wouldn't have listened to my data there, I would have pushed forward, kind of like we push sometimes, and probably I would have become sick. I really feel that.
Yeah. You dodged a bullet.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Let my body kind of rest. So
yeah. I mean, metrics are important to be tracking and make data-driven decisions about your health and routines and so forth. A great episode on the show was with David Kursunski. He has a tracking platform for health metrics, which is really interesting. It's a company called Heads Up Health, episode 491. Yeah, you probably as a an analytics geek about your health and somebody who likes to use AI to help optimize your health, I think you'd like that episode.
I would go listen to it. I'll definitely listen to it today.
Yeah. So I know we got to wrap up, but one last thing, like if you could give one suggestion for our listener, and I have a feeling I know what you're going to tell, like 2 words and begins with a number, but what is the one thing that's going to make the most immediate difference in the quality of their life and their discipline and how they show up, their presence, their health, their reliability and dependability to themselves and to their loved ones and to their company? What is that one thing that you would recommend?
Sleep. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, it's 100% 75 hard. You know, I'm a big fan. Make sure you're doing that for the
we
first
talked
time.
about this too on the other show. We had a great conversation about that. I wish we had time to really dig into it, but we don't. So maybe our listeners should listen to that episode on Marketing Speak where we talked a little bit more in depth about it. But encapsulate into a minute, what is 75 hard and why should somebody do it?
All right. So 75 Hard is a challenge invented by an entrepreneur called Andy Frisella. If you want to check out the full podcast, just go and search Spotify for like that, for Andy Frisella, MFCEO, or I think it's like AF, Real AF, his new podcast now, Real AF, and 75 Hard, right? In one word, 75 Hard, maybe even with a hashtag. So it's a challenge where it's a mental toughness or mental resilience challenge where you have to do 5 things every single day for 75 consecutive days. Those 5 things are 2 workouts a day. One has to be outside no matter the weather. They have to be 45 minutes and separated by hours from one another. Another thing you have to do is you have to drink a gallon of water, 1 gallon of water every day. That's a lot of water. You pee everywhere. Another thing is you have to read 10 pages of a personal development book. You have to stick to some diet that you choose, but stick to it. No cheat meals, no alcohol, and no cheat days, nothing. And lastly, you take 1 selfie a day, 1 progress pic every day. And those 5 things, you have to do them every single day. If you fall on any one of those 5 things on any day, doesn't matter when, you go back to day 1. And
you start all over again.
All over again, yeah. And so, this is.
And you've done this challenge how many times?
This is the 4th time now. I'm on
and
day.
You're in the middle of it right now.
Yeah, I do it every once in a while. It's very good. Yeah. So, so the why behind it is because we want to become people that can and know that we can create habits and skills to build skills and habits. And so when we become those people, then when we become those people, we are invincible. We are in terms of confidence. We have real confidence because we can take on whatever the world throws at us. And this program, this like challenge, it gets you there. Like, because after 75 days, and even if you fell on like day 66, like it happened to me, you started all over again and you finished. And in one of the instances I've done it, I had COVID and I pulled through with COVID, like 2 exercises a day and drank all the water and stuff. Like, and like so many obstacles coming your way of this challenge. It's just we tend to be the ones that say we're going to do something and we never do it. But after you do the 75 days, you become the person that says, I'm going to do something, and you do it. And there's no excuses. You make no excuses, and you hold yourself accountable on the highest levels. You do things that other people are not willing to do. And when you finish and you come on the other end, you come out a totally different person. So every time it shifts your mindset, it shifts you to the new higher you. So that's why I really recommend this.
That's great. You know, one thing I feel like I have to tell you, because I got nudged to tell you a couple times during this episode from above, is it's a quote from the Bible, and it's actually part of it's in Chronicles 29:12, All wealth and honor comes from you. And the reason why I'm being nudged to tell you this quote, which I recite every day as part of my morning prayers, it's in the Shacharit service. But the reason why is because, you didn't have clarity on the lesson, and maybe this will help you with that clarity on that lesson, that from that one low point where he said, well, this was kind of a repeat of what happened in 2017, whatever, and I'm not sure if I have the lesson yet. So if all wealth and honor comes from the Creator, right, from you with capital Y, then when you're making a pile of money, when you're getting to the point of running out of money, when you get an incredible new client or new deal or business partnership or whatever, that's all from, or you get honored with some sort of accolades, you get an actual award, or you get some sort of recognition. That all comes from God. And it's easy to think that, okay, this is based on my efforts. This is based on my focus, my attention, my intention. This is because I'm doing this right or whatever, that this is happening, or things are going off the rails because I'm not doing it right or whatever, and I lost my focus. But actually, it all comes from God. So I don't know if that resonates or not, but that's what I was inspired to share with you.
Love it, man. Yeah, I really believe that. I really believe that. And yeah, it's like the thing about you tapping into the Creator, right? And I think it's a worthy cause. Love it.
And if it's not separate from, you're not separate from the Creator's not separate from you.
Yeah.
Like every cell in your body, every synapse, every connection between the atoms, all the space in between, it's all God.
Yeah.
It's all infinite consciousness, infinite intelligence. You're capable of so much more than you could possibly imagine. We all are.
Yeah. I believe that.
Yeah.
Love it.
Awesome.
Love it.
So how does our listener or viewer learn more from you, follow you, subscribe to your podcast, your YouTube channel, all that? Where should we send them?
Sure. So number one is the podcast Commit First. It's not as active as your podcast. I record every once in a while when I meet someone very interesting. By the way, you should definitely come on the show as well. Like you should.
Oh, okay.
You come on my show. Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn and on Instagram. I'm most active there. On Instagram, it's Sagi.Shrieber, Shrieber. And on LinkedIn, it's just my name, obviously. You can find me there and send me a message. Tell me that you got from this podcast, and I'll share a gift with you. I'll share how I created the vision and how I walk others in creating the vision. Nothing to sell there. I don't have a mastermind or anything. I have my businesses, but I'll send it to you. It's a Google Doc I put together, like with a few videos I created just to give it away. So other people can build their vision. It includes the spreadsheet template of my vision and everything like that. And if you want, you can also ask me for a meditation. I'll send you the PDF of my meditation that I call Genesis. It really helped me to it's a 10-minute meditation. It's really effective.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. That's very generous of you. And I'll make sure that the links get included in the show notes for this episode.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Sagi, you're a light in the world. Thank you for joining us on this show. And
my friend.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Best of luck with everything that you're doing. You're really onto something big there.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. And thank you, listener. You're onto something big too. Go out there and make the world a better place. We'll catch you in the next episode. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off.
If you want to hear more conversations like this on manifestation and spiritual awakening, then I recommend episode 457 with Dr. James Doty, episode 530 with Nicholas Kusmich, and episode 531 with Amrit Sandhu. Also, I invite you to check out the show notes, transcript, action-based checklist, and all the URLs mentioned in this interview with Sagi Shrieber at getyourselfoptimized.com/541. If you enjoyed the conversation, I encourage you to share this episode, and more importantly, the entire show, Get Yourself Optimized, with a friend. Change a life and help me spread the light. Thank you.